There is a moment in the ancient world when a name is not just a word, it's a force, a boundary, a weapon, a key. To speak a name, especially a divine name, isn't just to identify, it's to activate. In the world of ancient Judaism, the names of God weren't labels. They were structures of power, frameworks through which reality itself was understood, accessed, and sometimes transformed. Are you ready to step into that world? A world where language shapes the cosmos, where utterance becomes architecture, where the name of God isn't spoken lightly because it does something. It does something. So let's begin at the beginning, not just with creation, but with how creation happens. You see, in the book of Genesis, God doesn't build the world with tools. There's no hammer, no chisel, no divine blueprint unrolled across the heavens. Instead, there is speech. Let there be light. And there is light. Creation unfolds not through physical labor, but through utterance. Language isn't descriptive, it's generative. The world emerges not from divine speech like sound waves solidifying into matter. No, in later Jewish tradition, this idea becomes even more precise, even more radical. The Hebrew language itself, the letters, the sounds, the combinations, is understood as the raw material of reality. The universe isn't just spoken into existence, it's composed. The ancient mystical text, known as the Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation, offers one of the most striking formulations of this idea.
He created his universe with 3 books, with text, with number, and with communication. Text, the letters themselves, are not mere symbols scratched onto parchment. They are the primordial building blocks of existence, the shapes through which divine thought takes form. Number imposes measure upon that raw expression. It gives rhythm to the cosmos, cycles to the stars, structure to time, proportion to all that exists. And communication, breath, sound, utterance, is the force that activates both. Together, these 3, text, number, and communication, form the architecture of existence itself, a living system in which language is not only spoken, but becomes the very fabric of the world.
This isn't just poetry. It's a theory of reality. Text, letters, language becomes a structural system. Numbers impose order. Communication bridges intention with manifestation. And together they form a cosmic grammar. At the center of this grammar lies the name of God. Not a name in the modern sense, but a matrix of power, a configuration of letters that holds the structure of existence together. Among all defined names in Judaism, one stands apart. 4 letters, Yud, He, Vav, He, the so-called Tetragrammaton. This is the name that over time becomes unpronounceable. You're not to pronounce it at all. Not because it was forgotten, but because it's too powerful to be used casually. By the Second Temple period, this name is spoken only in the most sacred context by the high priest on Yom Kippur within the temple in Jerusalem. And even then, it's not just spoken, it's released. Now, according to the Mishnah, When the high priest uttered that name, people would fall prostrate. They'd be overwhelmed by its power. Why? Because the name wasn't seen as symbolic. It was performative. To say it was to invoke the divine presence directly, to open a channel between heaven and earth. In a sense, the name functioned like a switch in a vast metaphysical system. Speak it correctly, in the right context, and something happens. Reality shifts. The boundaries between the human and the divine blur. And so the name becomes guarded, not hidden, but protected. Because power structures require boundaries. And without them, power becomes chaos. One of the most enigmatic moments in the Hebrew Bible occurs when Moses encounters God at the burning bush. He asks a simple question, "What is your name?" And the answer he receives is anything but simple. Eheye asher eheye. Eheye asher eheye.
I will be what I will be. Thus shall you say to the Israelites, I will be has sent me to you. This shall be my name forever. This my appellation for all eternity.
This isn't a name in the conventional sense. It's a refusal to be fixed, a declaration of becoming, a statement that resists containment. Here, the name of God isn't a static label. It's a dynamic process. It's a structure that's always unfolding, always becoming full beyond comprehension. And yet, paradoxically, this very fluidity becomes a kind of power structure. Because if God cannot be fully defined, then God cannot be controlled. In ancient magical traditions, both within and outside Judaism, knowing the name of a deity was often seen as a way to wield influence over that deity. But here, in the biblical narrative, that possibility is cut off at the root. The name is given, but not given, but not fully accessible. It's a structure that asserts divine freedom. It's a power that cannot be demonstrated. And as Jewish thought develops, particularly in mystical traditions like Kabbalah, the names of God become even more intricate and even more powerful, no longer limited to a single name. We encounter a whole system of divine names, each associated with different attributes, different aspects of the divine presence. The name Elohim is linked to justice, structure, and order. The name Yud-He-Vav-He, or YHWH, is associated with mercy, compassion, and becoming. The name El Shaddai evokes protection and boundary. Each name isn't just a title. It's a mode of operation. It's a way in which divine energy flows into the world. In Kabbalistic thought, especially in the system of the so-called Sephirot, these names map onto a complex structure of emanations, channels through which divine light descends into creation. Think of it as a network. Each name is a node, and each node governs a different function. Together, they form a dynamic system. a living architecture of divine power. And here's where it gets fascinating. Human beings are not outside the system. They participate in it. How? Through prayer, through intention, through the use of sacred language. Humans can align themselves with these divine channels. In other words, the names of God are not just descriptive, they are interactive. They invite engagement. They respond to invocation. They shape the relationship between the finite and the infinite. But with power comes risk. If the names of God are structures of power, if they can shape reality, then what happens when they're misused? Ancient Jewish texts are not silent on this very question. There are warnings, stories, hints of danger. In the Talmud, for example, we encounter a striking passage about the use of the divine name.
He who pronounces the name as it is written has no share in the world to come. For the name is not merely a sound to be uttered, but a force to be guarded. To speak it as it is written is to reach beyond one's proper boundary, to grasp at a power that was never meant to be wielded without reverence and restraint. Such a one does not simply misuse language, they disrupt the order it sustains, mistaking access for mastery and proximity for possession.
This isn't merely about reverence, it's about control. To use the divine name improperly is to attempt to access power without the proper structure, to bypass the safeguards that keep the system stable. In later mystical traditions, this idea becomes even more vivid. We hear of individuals who attempt to ascend the heavens using divine names, reciting sequences of letters, invoking angelic powers, navigating celestial realms. Some succeed, others do not return. The names are pathways, but they are also thresholds, and thresholds, by definition, are dangerous places. So, what does all this mean? What are we really saying when we speak the names of God as power structures? Well, we're saying that in Jewish thought, language is not neutral. It's not just a tool for communication. It's a medium of creation, a framework of reality. It's a system through which power flows.
Great and mighty is his name, for by it all things were created, and by it all things stand. For the name is not only the utterance that called the world into being, but the hidden force that upholds it from moment to moment. It is the unseen foundation beneath all that exists, the thread binding creation together, the power that prevents it from dissolving back into chaos. By the name, the cosmos does not merely begin, it endures.
The names of God are the most concentrated expression of this principle. They're not arbitrary. They're not interchangeable. Each one encodes a different aspect of the divine. Each one shapes how that aspect interacts with the world. And by engaging with these names, through study, through prayer, through contemplation, human beings enter into that system. They become participants in the structure of reality itself. And yet, for all its complexity, for all this structure, there is a final paradox. The most powerful name may be the one that is never spoken. See, in Jewish practice, the tetragrammaton is replaced with substitutes. Adonai, Hashem, which means the name. This isn't a loss. It's a recognition. It's a recognition that even the most elaborate systems of language cannot fully contain the divine. That beyond every name lies something unnameable, something that resists structure, something that transcends even the most intricate architectures of power. And perhaps that's the ultimate lesson, that the names of God are indeed power structures, but they're also gateways. They lead us towards something greater than themselves, something that cannot be fully captured, but can be encountered. In the end, the names of God aren't just ancient artifacts. They're living ideas. They challenge us to rethink the nature of language, of power, of reality itself. They invite us to consider that every word we speak carries weight, that language shapes the world, and that in some mysterious way, we are always standing at the threshold between silence and creation. Because in the beginning, there was a name, and the name was power.
If you appreciated this episode, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to Jews, God and History, because the past isn't dead. It's waiting.